Massive thank you to Skillshare for kindly sponsoring today's video. Hello everyone and a happy new year to you all. I know that I'm late to the party on that one. Today I'm going to be showing you the process of a digital painting that I did over the Christmas period, and it is my longest painting that I have worked on. Let me tell you, this is my longest painting I have worked on digitally till date. We're taking a trip to the Bayou today. Having been heavily inspired by Louisiana and New Orleans, I figured why not try to paint a conceptual piece related to that very inspiration, right? So my main sources of inspiration stemmed from many spooky familiar stories and creepy legends surrounding the Bayou and New Orleans. Stories and legends of ghosts, vampires and voodoo, the cypress trees that are dripping with Spanish moss, dense forests that only enable little to no lighting, and the fireflies as well, because they're slowly disappearing due to the ongoing pollution. So they glow at night for their safety, but they also glow to mate with their other fiery friends. And on top of all of that, there's just so many movies that take place and are featured in the Bayou and New Orleans, some of which that I've actually grown up on, like Forrest Gump, The Haunted Mansion, The Skeleton Key, Interview with a Vampire, Princess and the Frog, now Princess and the Frog by Disney. Could they have not just done that mid-90s? Did they have to wait so long for that movie to come out, really? Disney, hello? Anyway, American Horror Stories, Coven too. There's just so many movies and series that I filmed there. So I know that one series that really stands out to me and that I have watched that is super good, and that's the series called The Originals, about the original family of vampires who settled down in the city of New Orleans. Now the series embodies the supernatural politics of the city's French Quarter and is rooted with horror, fantasy and the supernatural. So I used to play a lot on the PlayStation, but I don't really find the time to do so anymore, mainly running a full-time business and being a mom. When I did though, I was very heavily inspired by the second game of Red Dead Redemption, and in that you can visit Saint Denis, I think it's pronounced that way, and this place in the game is heavily based on the real world city of New Orleans, Louisiana, sharing a number of similarities with the real world state of Louisiana. You really do get to travel back in time in this game, on horseback to be precise, so I just love the visuals and the native land before all the more modern buildings came along in today's known world. So I really gravitate towards native land, folklores and urban legends. In the game, it also features Braithwaite Manor, which in real life is Oak Alley Plantation, which is around about 50 miles west of New Orleans. Surrounding the manor are just these huge, enormous oak trees. It's located on the west bank of the Mississippi River. So the manor is a well-known landmark dedicated to preserving the history that its inhabitants left behind, having been a sugar plantation. The pathway that leads up to the manor, just phenomenal. Honestly, Louisiana and New Orleans just screams inspo. I sort of subconsciously came up with what I'm painting here, having not looked, or should I say watched, any of the movies that I've just mentioned or played on the game that I've just mentioned in a very long time. So this was kind of like creative vomit, and that's not the best probably term to put it in, but it was like that, like it just had to come out of me in some way, traditionally, digitally, some way or another. This painting took me just over 12 hours to paint. Now that might not seem like an extreme or extravagant amount of time, but having only picked up on painting digitally last June, it was a lot to wrap my noggin around still. Having learned so much about painting digitally in what seems like a short period of time, I managed to finally paint something on the Procreate that I was eventually very happy with. So if you're not overly familiar with the bayou, a bayou is a body of water that is most typically found in a flat low-lying area. It can be known as a river, a wetland, marshy lake, or a creek. Bayous are mainly found in the Gulf Coast region of the United States, or Louisiana, Arkansas and Texas. The bayou stretches across both Arkansas and Louisiana and is 375 miles long, and within it contains hundreds of different types of fish. So just before I continue, I would like to mention today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform with thousands of classes for you to choose from. So maybe you're wanting to try a new hobby and explore something that stands out and is uniquely different to you, fun and exciting this year. From journaling, photography to cooking, the list of projects for you to explore is abundant with Skillshare. So there are classes that will help you also with the basic fundamentals of drawing and progressing as an artist. Now you can have fun whilst developing the very thing that you love the most. and that of which you want to get even better at or journey into. Now, I honestly think that sometimes the basic fundamentals can get slightly overlooked when beginning to learn to draw. The classes and projects that Skillshare offer really help with that. With Ashley Harrison's class Illustrating in Procreate, I was able to embrace my illustrative side. For such a long period of time, I've been wanting to illustrate, like how you can see my painting unfold in today's video. I've been wanting to do this digitally for a long period of time, but having not a lot of familiarity with Procreate, when I very first got my iPad Pro way back in June of last year, I wasn't sure if I was going to be capable of creating what I could really envision from within onto the digital canvas. Now, this all changed with the help of Ashley Harrison's class. She really breaks things down and simplifies everything, so I was able to explore the fun part of me again, the part of me who loves to tell stories and visualize the magic that creativity can truly bring into our lives. Along with this class, I've also explored plenty of other projects on Skillshare that have helped aid in my growth digitally as a creator as well. The first 1,000 people to use the link in my description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare Premium. Now back to the video. The houses in the Bayou are built with the intention of being hurricane resistant and culturally appropriate. Houses are typically lifted above the water and are made with flood resistance in mind. The Bayou isn't just for hunting fish and sightseeing, because the Bayou also serves as a natural barrier between the inland areas and natural disasters, such as tropical storms and hurricanes. It protects its inland cities and towns from flooding. I wanted to paint something that was very culturally appropriate, but with my own stylistic approach. So the house is slightly different style-wise than you typically would find in the Bayou. I added my own flair. Although I didn't overly accentuate on all things spooky, I added in elements that would give off a slightly spooky vibe. So not overly much, but just that hint of it. So when I was focusing on the overall atmosphere of the drawing, that is what I decided to do, was just add that little tiny bit of a spooky element, particularly with the colour and just the tonal values in general. I focused on detailing both areas that I illuminated and the darker, much more set back areas too. Everything from highlights on the water, old drapes in the windows. I really just kept on adding in detail after detail, ensuring all elements that I did add in to the scene complemented the composition that I originally sketched out. Painting the Bayou was most definitely a challenge for me. With so much inspiration to choose from, I had to make a list of all things within my mind's eye that I wanted to include and things that I wanted to exclude when it came to so much inspiration. Sometimes when we get a little bit carried away of ourselves, we can put ourselves at risk of just overdoing it, and the piece ends up looking a bit cluttered and not really appealing at all. So I took a really vigilant approach as well, just making sure that all the elements that I did add in were balanced out within the scene. Alpha Lock had become my best friend at this point, ensuring that I didn't colour into any places that I didn't want to work into. After this, it's going to be tricky painting on a cotton canvas again without wanting to use 2 fingers to automatically delete the slightest of flaws. Perfectionism, however, it can be futile and doesn't always help the creative process. This is something that I most certainly had to remember when working on the iPad. It's easy to take away any mistakes. You can't just magically do that traditionally. Traditionally, you can only sketch out so many times before the mistake stays permanent from erasing away just too much and overworking the paper or whatever you're deciding to work on material wise traditionally. It's important to be mindful whilst enjoying the process, but not to be super abrupt with ourselves either. I think it's about finding that sweet spot when working digitally and traditionally. When it comes to the techniques that serve us as artists, that sweet spot can appear in different technique styles. Everyone sees the world in their own unique way, whether or not it is speaking through drawing and painting, or even just taking a photograph and turning it into something that, altering it into your own special way, unique way. So I guess it's not what you do, it's just the way in which that you do it. So I'd like to focus a lot more on concept art this year, and of course eventually filling up one of my sketchbooks. I have way too many sketchbooks and none of which are completely completed. The concept art I'm going to be focusing on this year the most is definitely going to be environments, and maybe even placing my own characters into those environments, which is something I haven't done since way back in high school. I would just make up little stories by doodling with biros and any tool that I could utilise at the time, back when life was a tad more simpler than this. So I really want to play about with different ideas, different perspectives, and take a slightly more looser approach to what I would normally do. If you aren't familiar with concept art is how you want to visually tell a story and convey a certain look. It is mainly used in movies and games to set the tone and overall mood of the entire game or movie. Most concepts aren't refined to the extent I've painted here today. However, more so they are quickly primarily sketches and designs, rough ideas that eventually set the tone and mood for the final outcome. So I'm very keen to work on my visions this year by roughing these visions out onto canvas, be it digitally, traditionally, or just both, like I mentioned. After all the visuals I've placed together are done, I can finally turn all those rough ideas into more finalised works of art. I'm still going to be painting my home city and expressing my love for the urban wildlife amongst that too. I won't be leaving the body of work behind that I started in the prior year. I'm just going to be slightly working around everything else I have going on. So much like concept art, to finalise this piece, I focused on all visual components. So in this piece, I considered line weight, shape, and mainly space. I wanted the viewer's eye to be caught by the house, but also be able to gravitate visually towards the well-lit area near the tree. So when you're looking at the painting, we're flowing with that yin and yang vibe, if that makes any sense. It made sense in my head. I don't know. Also, I aimed for more structure up top, so for the house and boardwalk, sharp elongated lines, and for the water that's at the bottom, I focus on creating smooth, much more curved, rounded shapes that just flow with the scene, keeping everything overall consistent. This painting carried me through to this year. I started the painting on the 27th of December and finalised it on the 2nd of January. So I was painting this in little gaps of time I had because of all the celebrations and just all of that jazz really. this video is definitely a lot more longer than usual, my longest actually out of all the videos that I've ever uploaded. Figured that I would just slow things down for a change, just so all the details could be seen. If I sped this up, it would look a bit peculiar. I didn't think it would work as like a super fast painting time lapse. Yeah, let me know if you like these more in-depth videos, because I really love to explain the process. More so, I prefer to like slow things down anyway, because you get to see a lot more. You get a real insight to what's actually going on, whereas if I was to speed this up way too fast, a lot would just get missed out. trying to plan all my moves in advance this year, forever working on delivering better content, but I have to keep on reminding myself to not overly worry on content creation because I'm not really a content creator, I'm an artist. But as always, I only ever hope to deliver my best to you. I also like to deliver videos that people can actually relate to as well, like not just clickbait, because I don't want to do any clickbait whatsoever. I opted for a night scene because I love the mystery and wonder that the nighttime brings to the Bayou. I stuck to the appropriate colour scheme for this painting, so usually the Bayou is saturated heavily with like teal and tropical turquoise. Along with that, it has a very aquamarine undertone, all of which contrasted flamboyantly. And that about wraps up my very first digital painting time lapse on the Procreate. Thank you everyone for watching, and until next time, stay creative.